Welcome to the Shut Up and Work podcast. I am your host, the coach. Along with me is SJ. And today we have a special guest. We have Miss Christina Alva on the line that's going to be joining us. And Miss Alva, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we're just going to be talking about U.S. workers who have two jobs.
Uh-oh, somebody's in trouble. Or is somebody being a slave? Now, I thought it ended in 1865, but we're about to find out. So, without further hesitation, Christina, go ahead and take the microphone and explain.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Coach. So first, I just want to introduce myself. I am Christina Alva, career coach, author, speaker, author of Beyond the Job Description, How to Succeed in the Workplace, where it covers everything from interviewing, completing a resume, and then exceeding on the job. And today, we just want to discuss the topic of U.S. employees who have multiple jobs. So that's two or more. And with the current tone of the way the world is, given the pandemic, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has reported in January of this year that about 8 million or 5% of U.S. workers have more than one job.
Uh-oh.
Two jobs or more, right? So,
Yep.
And recent studies have shown, though, there's a new article out that says, although the Bureau of Labor Statistics stated that it was about 5%, that number is actually more like 10%.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's very common for people who are working in one full-time job to have a second job. And it's common to find some people out there right now who have two full-time jobs. Now, this begs the question, is it legal? Is it ethical? Is it moral? Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of controversy going on about it because with so many employees working from home, there's been a change in the tone of work as far as, questioning, are people really working all day when they're supposed to be working? But one could argue, price of eggs going up, milk going up, and everything else going on, like you have to have more than one job just to be comfortable these days.
That is true. So let me kind of ask this question or interject something here. Now, is it that people are working, like if they're working two jobs, or they working for similar companies? Like, for example, if a person is working at Coke and they're doing something teleworking, doing some stuff for them, are they also working for a company like Pepsi, which may have a non-compete or a do not compete clause or something in there?
So that's a great question. I don't feel like you're going to find a report with that because no one's going to tell you, right? But
True.
Especially as a career coach and helping people with resumes and interviewing and getting jobs, I've seen this a lot. And I'm speaking my opinion on how I feel about this matter.
Okay.
Personally, I do not agree with working two jobs that are in direct conflict with each other, although there are people out there who are doing it. They're working for their competitors and they're just not saying anything. There's the question, well, how will anybody know? I'm not going to say nothing. But if you do get caught, know the risk of what you're doing and the chances you're taking. Because nobody ever intends to get caught. Robbers, murderers, they never intend to get caught either, right? But they do.
Yep, exactly.
So is it illegal to work two jobs? Absolutely not. It's not illegal to work two jobs. Now, having said that, the caveat is, what two jobs are you working? Like you mentioned, Coach, that, they could be in direct conflict of each other. So when you work, you have to know the code of conduct that you sign when you get the job, because there's a bunch of paperwork you sign. You should know what you're signing. And most companies have an ethics clause.
Yes, that's what I meant.
So you have to know what it says. If there's a competitor, even with timesheet reporting. So there are a lot of people who may work a full-time job in the day and they work from home and now they do Uber or some other Instacart, DoorDash, something like that.
Okay, I got you.
And you can say that's completely reasonable. But again, know what your work ethic clause says before you do something like that. A lot of companies, their HR departments are asking you to disclose whether or not you have a second job and what it is, so they can make sure that it doesn't, conflict with what you do in your company that you work for as the primary job or the first job before you get the second job. Now, having an Uber or Lyft job, right? But are you working it during the same hour day that you're charging to your full-time 9-to-5 job? That's a whole second issue, because now we're talking time reporting fraud. When you fill out your timesheet and you're saying you worked an hour on this or 8 hours on this, and you were only in the house for 4 hours, and then you were doing Lyft or Uber for like 4 hours, right? So there's two things going on. There's that ethics or moral clause that you have to be aware of, but then the other thing is understanding what your time card reporting policy is, because if you're charging your time, and for example, your company is saying like you charge by the hour, you charge your day to project work or contract work or something like that, you're filling out that time card and you're not really working those hours. Again, the average employee or person would say, well, Christina, how are they even going to know? I'm not going to tell them. I'm just saying.
Let me interject on this point. So we know that since we've been working from home due to COVID, that actually studies have shown and data has shown that people have become more productive and they've been getting more work done working from home. However, a lot of companies, even though this is what the data shows, they're still trying to drag their employees back into the workplace, saying that it would be better for the company. So what if a person is able to multitask and complete, not simultaneously, of course, because that's not possible, but what if they are actually able to complete their requirements, or even above and beyond the requirements, they're meeting the needs of both companies and getting the work done?
Wait,
how does that fare in this situation?
Oh, sorry, SJ. Can I say something real quick? Did you just agree with me from last week? Multitasking is not possible. Did you just agree with me?
No, absolutely not, Coach. That's not what you heard. I don't know what you heard, but that wasn't it. I said it's not possible to simultaneously do two jobs at once.
Correct. Which that will be a form of multitasking, right?
No, multitasking can mean many different things. So for example, if I'm working on 2 different projects at the same time, I may be working on my laptop while I'm cooking something in the kitchen, or I may be working on my laptop while I'm putting laundry in the washing machine and in the dryer.
Okay.
I know, Coach, y'all don't understand too well about multitasking, so I'm going to break it down.
No, it's all good. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. I don't want you to burn any chicken.
Well, I think SJ brings up a good point, and I think that's the argument of most people who have 2 jobs, right, that they work simultaneously, right? It's just that, well, this one's kind of slow and it's up and down, and so I can easily work this second job, and I'm doing this to get ahead because the price of gas, the price of getting a car these days, all of it. But again, I'm just saying, what is the risk? And with anything you do, any decision you make, I say, what is the risk, right? And so the risk there is that if you have a company policy that allows you to do so, then by all means, you're good. But if you don't know and you're just wondering, can I work another job? I'm here to tell you there are risks involved. So that could be, depending on your company and what you sign and what they allow you to do and not do, you're risking a fine, significant fine, where you have to maybe pay back the hours that you reported you worked that you did not. Another possible risk is jail time. I mean, these are very serious allegations. And SJ, you bring up a good point. What if you can't handle both and you're a superstar kind of performer in both your jobs? And so why is this a problem? Well, just to let people know who are listening in, some of the things that, some companies are looking for or noticing, or some of the ways they're kind of determining if somebody's working 2 jobs at the same time, is, are you missing meetings? Are you not answering your messages via email? Or a lot of companies have like this inter-office chat function where, it has a little indicator to let you know if you're available in a meeting, away. or whatever. Are you handing in subpar work? Are you handing in work late? Are you frequently taking sick leave? Is there a sudden shift in your work quality? So there are all these things that, companies are looking out for these days to determine, is somebody working 2 jobs? And you're right, sometimes they get it wrong, but it's a question that is on the mind these days because, as SJ pointed out, there's studies, the data is showing people are doing it.
Yeah, great. And those are great points. I mean, I know when I was working from home and things like that, I was so busy though, I didn't have a chance to try to do something else. So for the people out there, if you have that ability to where you can multitask and do 2 jobs at the same time and keep up with production, you're not slacking. As Christina just named, you're not missing meetings, your production is great, all these things, then by all means, hey, work yourself into the grave, all right here. But on the other hand, as you said, if it becomes a problem, then I understand, especially if your coworkers are having to pick up your slack. That's where I would see the problem. And that's where I would be if I'm a coworker. I'm like, hey, why is she all of a sudden falling behind? What's going on here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah,
That's
and I would
fair.
kind of like pull her to the side. I wouldn't get in her business, but I kind of like, hey, Sally, what's up? Are you struggling? What's going on here? Because normally you on top of this thing. And now I'm having to pick up your slack. So, hey, what's happening? Are you feeling bad? Maybe something has happened. A family member or something is real sick. You're bothered, whatever in that situation. But I can see where that can be a problem because of those things right there, is what you're saying. And especially if somebody is getting over. My last job with the Army Corps of Engineers, we work closely with general and subcontractors. Now, there were rumors at times, like, let's say, like this certain supervisor that's getting their house built way on the outskirts of town, all of a sudden, certain times of the day, oh, I gotta go, or I gotta leave, or I gotta do something, or I gotta go do this. And then next thing you know, you hear about that certain supervisor that has this special kind of pool where you slide out of the master bedroom and slide all the way down to the pool, or a hot tub inside of the house, or you will hear these things, right? So it's kind of, or before I say that, or you will hear things like, oh, so and so got this job that pays double of what they were making with the Army Corps of Engineers. All of a sudden, they're a supervisor of this company, or they're a owner or a vice president. And it was almost like, were they already in cahoots with this company before they decided to say, hey, I'm gonna leave here, I'm gonna leave the Corps and go work with ABC contractor or whatever in that situation. So there were a lot of weird, suspicious things going on uh, that I will say that I've seen from people before COVID and after COVID. And of course, I'm not going to rat them out or snitch them out, because I did a couple of things, but it didn't take the things that I needed to do for my small business, did not take like all day to do. I could maybe do it on my lunch hour, or maybe an hour, and go take care of something real fast. And then, hey, I'm back on point. And I didn't, put any extra weight on my peers or coworkers or whatever you want to call them. I call them assholes, but that's just the way it is. So, that's kind of my opinion on that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting you say that, Coach, and SJ too, because the number one way that employers are finding out that staff have more than one job they're working at the same time, or working for a company of conflict of interest, is through other employees.
Yeah, that can be true. And you're right, because like I said, my job, I was hearing these rumors, and of course, I wasn't gonna go tell the supervisor. I mean, hell, I was one of the few black people that worked in the Corps in the city that I'm in. So what would I look like going to go tell somebody, telling the boss, and he gonna be looking at me like, hey, darky, ain't you busy doing some work? That's going on in his head. He might
He's
not.
going to tell you to shut up and work.
Exactly. And tell me that he got a whip waiting on me or whatever if I don't get back to work. So what would I know or go out and snip? But I just saw certain things that question, like, hey, there's an integrity problem that's going on between the workers and the contractors in some situations. And especially, let me add this other thing. There were a couple of times that say like you assigned to a particular project, a construction site, and say this contractor is messing up and you written them up for a number of things and you send a write up to the boss. I have seen it and I have experienced firsthand where the boss come back and got mad at me for going out there writing up deficiencies in the construction, even though I had pictures, I had evidence, I had written, recorded evidence and everything. And the boss will get mad and pull me off that project. So tell me that wasn't a conflict of interest. And I might have said, for the record, I might have told a previous supervisor or two that, are you working for this contractor? Because you sure got upset when I bought you the obvious deficiencies and the obvious things that the contractor is not holding up to par. And I was like, are they paying you under the table? Yeah. So that's another interesting thing that I found. And like I'm stating, I found it more on the supervisory side than I did on the employee side.
Interesting. So you know me, I have to play devil's advocate and introduce another thought here, just because I want to have a better understanding. And Christina, when we talked about it before you came on the podcast, you mentioned something about fraud. So I'm going to set up a scenario and then I'd love to hear what you think about it. So absolutely and definitely, if you're working for two competitive companies within the same industry, I get that's a problem, because more than likely you did sign something saying that you could not get involved with or share inside information and trade secrets. And if you're working for two competing companies, there's no way that you would be able to separate and keep that apart. That's just not possible. So I get that. But let's say, because a lot of people, when they're working from home, they're using more of a flex schedule. So for example, when I was working from home, I was able to start later or earlier. Everybody kind of was able to work at their own pace. I was able to take longer breaks and return to work later. And oftentimes I would clock in for my normal hours. However, I wouldn't necessarily be working those hours, but I would work my 8 hours just split up a little differently than I would if I were in person, because I'm at home and I have to deal with interruptions that come with being at home. So I know that most employers, unfortunately, are not really quite as flexible, and they don't like the idea of that, although some of them do. But what if you're not actually, using that same time, but you're working overtime, just it's not necessarily reflected exactly accurately? What do you think about that? Would that still be fraud? And what are some of the more severe penalties for this kind of situation? Like, could you go to jail for this?
It's a great question. First, I'm going to say I'm not an attorney. And then I'm going to say all of the viewpoints I'm expressing today are from my own experience, in my opinion. But I recommend, again, if you want to work a second job, you need to know your company policy and clear that with your company. Read through the documentation, then make your own judgment whether you want to say something to them about it before you get the second job, before you take that venture on. And yes, you made a great point about people working more flex schedules because of the other stressors and things that are going on in the home, working from home. Again, you have a relationship with your supervisor, you know what your company expectation is, and you just need to make sure you meet that expectation. Because when you don't meet their expectation, that's when you lose jobs, right? So
yeah, that's when you attract attention to yourself.
right, attract attention, lose jobs, get in trouble, slap on the hand. And it could be, for lack of putting this in a better way, again, this is my opinion, but sometimes if they want you out, they look for a reason. Don't give them one, you know?
True.
So true. They do look for a reason.
Yes. So make sure you know what you sign when you set up and go to work. Make sure if you say you're working, and most companies, I would say most companies seem to be pretty flexible with the work hours. As long as you put the work in, you get your expected workload done within the amount of time you're supposed to finish it with high quality, right? Then they don't mind if you have that type of job where you can do kind of flex schedules, and they know that when they need you, they know how to reach you. And if you're not around because of certain situations or something, people are aware, so it doesn't look like you are doing something you're not. And that's the main thing, the perception and what you're putting out there. Because again, like I said, there are people targeted at work who are working from home and who don't have two jobs, but may seem like they do have two jobs. And employers don't know, you know, and like I said, they're the metrics that most of them are using to kind of determine that. But the main thing is, you want to make sure you cover yourself, make sure you're aware of the risk so that you're not caught in this, I didn't know, you know, situation, and it really hurts you. So as long as you know the risk and you're aware of what you're doing, you're grown, you can make your own decisions, right? I just want everyone to be informed about what they're doing. But in your situation of being, you know, the flex schedule, and maybe you work 9 to 5, but you are called to do something else in the home between 9 and 12, and so you work 12 to 8, something like that, I would say just make sure where you work and with who you work with, that's okay to do if it happens occasionally. A lot of this is also stemming from patterns, right? Consistently unavailable, consistently not around, consistently not responding to email, consistently not producing quality work. But again, and even if your jobs are not in conflict of each other, which a lot of people have been working 2 jobs or more way before the pandemic, right? Especially like, you know, people who work a 9 to 5 who want to stem into their own business and start their own company or be their own entrepreneur, etc. You might work your 9 to 5 and then work a 5 to 9. So that's fine. It's just with your company, your policy, you need to be clear on what it is and make sure what you do is okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yes, but definitely. So here's my last question. Christina, have you personally experienced in your previous workplaces people who are doing these things that we're discussing? They're working 2 jobs, or were you able to figure it out that they are doing 2 things at once?
So I'm going to speak my viewpoint from being a career coach.
Okay.
And working with people to help them get jobs, and working with people who have been fired from jobs, who are now, you know, dusting off their resume to go get new jobs. And I can say that I have heard and seen this in a sense of people being let go because they've been caught working 2 jobs.
Okay.
You know, and people will always ask, I don't know how they knew. And the number one way companies know is because employees rat on you, you know? Exactly. Good point. If workload starts falling and someone else has to pick it up, they're going to complain, right? So I have experienced this and work with people who have lost jobs and been asked to help people who have jobs get second jobs. Now, me personally, with my own personal ethics and morale, I will not actively help you get a second job that's in direct conflict with your first job, or knowing that you're going to be sitting at your desk from 8 to 5 with 2 computers side by side, working 2 different jobs and charging the same 8-hour day to 2 different companies, because I know from a company standpoint, if it was my company, I wouldn't want you doing that, right? And that stems on SJ's question about the penalties. They could be very severe. Like I said, you could be charged by the IRS to pay back all of that money for the whole time that they find you guilty of doing this kind of double dipping situation. It could be jail time. It just depends on who you piss off, right?
Yeah.
um,
That's crazy.
most of the time, though, it's a slap on the hand and you get fired,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but who wants to take that chance?
yes. So I just say, and the greater your position, the greater the risk. If you've got like security clearances and you're doing this stuff,
Yes.
like, I'm not going to tell anyone. You don't have to. You have a security clearance. They know everything about you, right?
Exactly.
So again, and companies talk, because they have to sit down at the table and they're talking about their non-compete rules, and people get poached from one competitive company to another. Like, companies talk too, so just be aware of that.
Awesome. Yeah, that is great information.
So Christina, then do you have any advice as a career coach? Let's say that I want to get ahead in my career and I feel like I have the time and energy to really invest in doing something else. And I would really rather do something full-time so that I get a full salary. Other than being familiar with my company's policies and the prospective company that I would work for, their policies, and being transparent, do you have anything else? Like, maybe I shouldn't even look for another job. Maybe I should try to do some freelancing on my own.
That is a great question. Okay, outside of what you can do for yourself, because you could take the perspective of, I don't know what I can do in my 9 to 5, what their external policies are, and I'm gonna go do something freelance and it's free, so nobody's paying me. So it shouldn't be a conflict of interest in that sense that,
Oh, no, I mean getting paid. When I say freelance, like a contract consultant, yes, is it a 1099 employee?
Yep.
Okay, so I would directly say, as long as you're comfortable after reading your company's documentation that you are not in direct conflict. And I mean this because I'm trying to think of a great example to tell you. You could work in sales and marketing in advertising for a company, and then you do freelance work, but you get hired by your company's competitor. And it's not like you're releasing your company's secrets to the competitor, but what you do for your company, you're turning around and doing for your competitor. Now, you may have read that you didn't see anything in documentation, but I would definitely ask your company first before you do that.
Okay.
Again, how is it perceived in a court of law, right? Right. And if they want to get rid of you, don't make it easy for them. So I say, just be transparent with your company. If you want to do something where you're using the same skills that you use for your 9 to 5, and you're about to go out there and make money using those same skills somewhere else, you want to let them know and make it clear so that if somebody else rats on you, so to speak, they already know and it's not a problem, right?
Yeah, those are great points that you're bringing up, and what to do and things like that, what to look out for. And as I always say, Christina, sorry, it sounds like you have the same advice that I give people. Is the first thing you need to do on your job is learn the rules, policies, and procedures, of your company. So that way in the future at your job, if you decide to get a second job or side hustle, you know what the ramifications are, and
Right.
you know what the consequences are. So
Right.
I think those are great points to let people know what they need to do. The first thing is check on those things that I just named, and then proceed with caution or whatever in that situation.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Learn the rules and you can master the game.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like that.
That's right. You can play chess, not checkers.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So does anybody else have anything on this topic they would like to share?
Just be careful out there, because Trump seems to be the only one that can get away with it.
Well, he's a fake business owner. He's not a employee. So,
well, if anyone else thinks of anything later after listening to this, you can feel free to reach out to me at ChristinaAlva.com.
Yes.
You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Christina N Alva. And I'd be more than happy to take a call or answer a question in a DM. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, Christina. And what we're going to do, we're going to put her information in the description. So if you guys would like to reach out to her, just read the description and it'll have all her contact info. So with that being said, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Shut Up and Work podcast. We will see you on the next one. Everybody, take care.
thanks.